Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So tonight's topic comes about a little bit because of the times we are in, but because I have heard so many people say how difficult it is for them in these times, and they want to stop listening to the news or paying attention to the world because it's too much. So I want to talk about the Lotus Sutra. It's such a big topic that I can barely address it, but I hope that by some of the words we'll have some encouragement and feel comforted by a way to go and how to handle ourselves in the midst of great calamitous time that we are in, and fear of the future. Certainly in the United States, many people are sensing that. So the Lotus Sutra presents a great deal of a sense of courage and comfort, I think, in that the presence of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, also known as Kanzeon, also known as Kanon, and also known as Kanjizai and Kuan Yin. All these are the same personage or the same appearance of a bodhisattva, a very great bodhisattva. We chanted that in the Heart Sutra. We started in the Heart Sutra, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. That's Avalokiteshvara is the same. All of these different names are the same. And yet that same personage, I will call this, maybe even archetype, is capable of so many different things in the world. And so we could say she or he. He can appear as a woman, she can appear as a man. It depends on what is needed at any given time. So we can take great comfort in the strength of this. And one of the chants that we chant is from the Lotus Sutra. And this is a very powerful sutra, a very powerful chant that is not typically chanted in the United States, although we do chant it here. And many people, or the thought is that many people don't like to chant it here because it seems too much akin to prayer that we find in the Abrahamic tradition, Judaism, Christianity, and Muslim. So I want to differ, and I hope that I will say tonight why those are quite different. And yet there's some feeling of entreaty and prayer that does surround this. So the chant is called Myoho Rengekyo Kanzeon Bosatsu Fumon Bonge. That's a big mouthful. But Myoho Rengekyo Kanzeon is the appeal to Kanzeon in the Lotus Sutra. Myoho Rengekyo is the Lotus Sutra. Kanzeon Bosatsu. And Fumon Bonge is the gateway to everywhere. And so we essentially call this chant the gateway to everywhere. So Fumon Bon is the gateway to everywhere. And the tag ge at the end means it's a poem or a poetry of a kind that we find in sutra texts. So typically we just call it Fumon Bonge, the gateway to everywhere. We also, maybe some of us don't recognize that we call upon this chant in our Meal Sutra when we chant the Pundarika Sutra, the Siddharma Pundarika Sutra. And so that is chanted right in with the names of the Buddha when we are chanting our Meal Sutra. Myoho Rengekyo Kanzeon Bosatsu Fumon Bonge. So, and again, the Fumon Bon, again, means chapter 25, because that's the gateway to everywhere. In chapter 25 of the Lotus Sutra. It's a big sutra. And one important thing in it, I think, is that at the time that this was chanted, we refer to it as everyone having Buddha nature, that we all have Buddha nature, and this is the teaching in it. All sentient beings have Buddha nature. But when we come to Dogen Zenji, who was the founder of our school of Zen, Dogen says, wait a minute, that's not exactly correct. We are Buddha nature, is Dogen Zenji's teaching. And that makes a huge foundational shift in the recognition of what we are, that we are Buddha nature. So in the chanting of Myoho Renge-kyo, the gateway to everywhere, when it talks about that we're all Buddhas and we're all so forth, we all are Buddha nature. So the chant itself is appealing to Kanzeon to answer the question. It starts out, O world-honored one, fully endowed with subtle signs, now I ask again about the son of the Buddha, for what reason he is named the one who observes the sounds of the world. And this is what this sutra, this chanting is about, that someone, as it's translated, hears the cries of suffering in the world, and no matter what kind of situation you would get into, you can be rescued from that terrible cataclysm, whatever it may be. Listen you to the conduct of the sound observer, the one who responds well to all places and all directions. That's us listening. Listen to the sounds, listen to the conduct, the behavior of the Bodhisattva Kanzeon, who hears the cries and listens in all places, in all directions. His broad vows are as deep as the ocean. This is the one who can hear everything around the world, everywhere. And then uttering great and pure vows, I will tell it to you. I will tell you what this Bodhisattva can do. Listen to this, we are told in this sutra. The hearing of his name, the sight of his body, and the recollection of him thought do not pass away in vain, for he can extinguish the woes of existence. And he says, even if someone falls into a great pit of fire, if we appeal and we hear the cries, we hear and we appeal to Kanzeon, that pit of fire would turn into a great pool and we would be rescued from great distress. And throughout the whole sutra, there are just awful things that might happen to us. Then they're all named and all tagged and all so forth. When disputes go through military campus, when they terrify military campus, constant mindfulness of sound observer, the enemy will all be destroyed and scatter. That is the claim of this great, powerful bodhisattva. But I want to say that there is a translation that is a little bit different from the one who hears the cries of suffering. And this translation is, instead of the word hears, which is a fairly passive, to me it's a fairly passive thing. I'll hear the cries of suffering and, I'll be there for you. But the translation that I prefer uses the word heed, H-E-E-D-S, heeds the cries of suffering. And implied in the heeds the height of suffering, heeds the cries of suffering, there's an action implied within the word heeds. Now, parents, I'm sure, our parents have told us, heed the words I say, or maybe your teachers have, or you're maybe a spiritual teacher along the way. Heed my words. We get that certainly in the Tao Te Ching, we get that in Confucianism, we get it certainly in this sutra. The one who heeds the cries of suffering and then takes action. Now, this bodhisattva may be personified in statues of, sometimes there are 10 arms sticking out of the statues. And sometimes there are 20 or 25, and it will go all the way up to 1,000 arms in this statue that has all of these possibilities sticking out of it. And something is held in each of the hands of all those 1,000 arms. And they may be ropes, or a sword, or a hammer, or a compass, or a ruler, or a book, or something that will aid us. And this is the job of this bodhisattva, to heed the cries of suffering and come to our aid. No matter what, if we follow through on this, if we really understand this, that aid will be there. And the 1,000 arms then personifies so many possibilities for us. But what I feel very strongly in this, taking from Dogen Zenji's teaching that we are Buddha nature, if there is a living being who shall hear this chapter of the Bodhisattva, he who heeds the sounds of the world, the deeds of self-mastery, the manifestation of the gateway to everywhere, the powers of supernatural penetration, be it known that that person's merit shall not be slight. But we are also told in this that there's really no separation between us and the Bodhisattva. That is, to call upon the Bodhisattva is to bring the Bodhisattva within us entirely. And then we are filled with compassionate action, or the courage of action, or the ability to act in whatever situation arises. And that is the promise of this. The mindful awareness of this bodhisattva. But it is about our becoming that bodhisattva, our being that bodhisattva. As if that bodhisattva is Buddha nature, so are we. Then there is no separation between that bodhisattva and this Eidō, or anyone else here in this Zendo. There is no separation. There is no distance. That bodhisattva is alive then in us. And we are fortified with courage. We are fortified with the instrument to act in one of those hands of the 1,000 arms of the bodhisattva. So we cannot fear the future because that bodhisattva is right there in us. And whatever happens, we will act appropriately. We cannot fear the future. We cannot fear what might happen. It's not appropriate in Buddhist text, in Buddhist action. All of this is about overcoming that fear, about standing strong, about holding against the fiercest challenges that would come. Clouds rolling the thunder drums, dispatching the lightning, send down the hail and pour forth the great rains. All of that, no matter what. Our recognizing Avalokiteshvara Kanzeon Bosatsu means we have the courage to stand. We have the courage to take action whatever is appropriate. This is the bodhisattva of compassion. And when I think about all those articles that are in those 1,000 arms, there is the sword. There's all kinds of tools and weapons that this bodhisattva holds. And sometimes that sword that we see on the statue of one of the bodhisattvas is to cut through, is to have that sword to cut through delusion, the delusion of fear. to wipe that clean from our way forward. We don't know the future. We don't know tomorrow. We don't know going home. We're right here. This is it. Now, this to me is one of the most important teachings that we have in our literature, in our Zen literature. And I would like very much for our practitioners in the morning to recite this in the second part of the liturgy, and to get that, begin to truly trust it and have it awaken in us the presence of Kanzeon. So just a little story, a little tiny example. I was living in San Francisco, single parent, raising my 3 kids, and it was hard. It was hard to keep the rent going. It was hard to do the job that I had. All of it was incredibly difficult, and I felt myself just sinking in and thinking I wasn't sure how I was going to go forward. I was really quite in despair. So I decided to go out for a walk, and I was just walking up the hill of the street that I lived on, and I was coming to terms with myself, and I'm saying, okay, and I'm really challenging this to show up. And I'm saying, okay, Avalokiteshvara, if you are real, I want to see you. I want an appearance of something that is going to tell me that this is really true. And I absolutely took it so deeply into my heart. And as I came close to the corner, a blind man came around the corner toward me. And he stopped when he heard my footsteps. And he said, "Oh, do you live on this block?" There was a bodhisattva who heard my despair. And this blind man changed that despair entirely. And I realized that that was the bodhisattva, the appearance of bodhisattva, by way of my bringing the Kanzeon forth and the Kanzeon coming forth. Do you understand that? Understand that as we have Kanzeon in us, Kanzeon comes forward by right of some force of some kind that it appears. I became friends with that man who would once in a while knock on my door and say, "Would you take me out for a ride and show me the scenery?" We lived close to the ocean. He'd say, "Tell me the ocean, show me the ocean," or something, "Show me the park." And I would not have to, but I would try and describe the park to him. I think he had been blind all his life, and I don't know that he knew color. To try and describe color to somebody is very difficult, but I learned a great deal from that man, Bodhisattva, who appeared at that moment. So this is our work this is our acceptance of the teaching in this sutra, that we are given the appearance of Kanzeon within us, and then Kanzeon appears in front of us, within and without. To me, it is one of the most important teachings in the sutras that we chant. So heeds, it takes, this different word, one who heeds the cries of suffering. And heeds means pay attention to, attend to, bear in mind, be guided by, adhere to, abide by, which to me is continual action. It is not a passive matter at all. This is Dogen Zenji's teaching on this particular Kanzeon. So Dogen writes then, he says, what signs and sounds are not encompassed within Kanzeon Bodhisattva's seeing and hearing? There is his gateway for entering into the truth. So in the Lotus Sutra, there is the Kanon who manifests everywhere. And that means to manifest for us. This is not some statue somewhere. The Kanzeon is alive in our lives. Kanzeon is not a statue, although we have statues. Kanzeon appears everywhere. So we must not give up paying attention to the world that we are in. So we listen and heed the cries of suffering within us. And we don't hold it in the sense as maybe some misunderstood, as I might have said earlier. We don't hold it within and carry the suffering. We act in the world. And as every action that we do in the world is already the heeding to the cries of suffering. Our actions in the world are the release of that suffering. No, we certainly can't all run off to the war zones and be doctors in the war zones or what have you. But our actions where we are count. And it's important that we know what is going on in the world. Today, tomorrow, and the day after are the new year in Judaism. And let the new year in Judaism be an opening and awakening and a moment toward the possibility of peace. But we can't not know that that is going on in this world. So every other action that we do that is a good action is a moment of peace. I think Happy New Year in Judaism, Shana Tova. That's how you say Happy New Year. So we have some of our members who are Jewish, so Shana Tova, peace. So this is just a brief entry into this magnificent liturgy that we have, that I am always take a great solace in, that we chant that here. It's very rare to be chanted in the United States. And we have chanted it here for many years. And I think that you too have taken solace in it. So let us chant that right in this great time of need every morning here. So maybe you have some questions or something.
Eidō-san, it's Roman.
Yes, Roman.
I just wanted to say thank you. I feel that was much needed today, and I have been in tears several times.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a Roman saying thank you. Maybe you can hear that. Yeah. Yes, there's great comfort in this, knowing that we have the capacity to have Bodhisattva arise in us, Kanzeon arise in us. It's very fortifying and strengthening. So we need not succumb to fear. Yes.
When we had recited this, I always had the sense that we shouldn't fear death.
Right.
That
Right.
you know these great calamities that we find ourselves in were us on the precipice of death, and that acceptance of death was part of what we
Yes.
needed to do to live or live out the teaching.
Sure, I think that's correct. But I also think there's not the promise that there'll be no death in this either, but that at that moment of recognition of Kanzeon, we will feel the transcendence. We will experience a transcendent moment. And I think there's one of the points of one of the difficulties in the chapter where that may be true, that even and I forget how the expression is, but even if you die, at that moment you are transcendent. You've got that the beauty of the Kanzeon and that faith, and so there's no promise that we're not going to die anyway. That's just a fact. We're all going to die, but there are plenty of times, certainly, when there is rescue from that by way of that strength of the Bodhisattva. So, and yes, the release of the fear of death, by all means. Yes, Bill.
First of all, I'm aware that this implies that there is truly awesome power at our fingertips.
Yes.
I mean, because the chant is full of absurdly wondrous deeds of rescue, healing, protection. I mean, it's just that's breathtaking.
Yes.
And then the other thing that really came through to me in your talk this evening is that it's not a matter of an individual screwing up the courage or somehow kind of finding some sort of inner resource. It's a call and response that includes the individual's act of courage and insight, but it's about trusting that the Bodhisattva will appear, is appearing, always. And it's
Quite
not,
wonderful.
it's not something that we aspire to, because the moment we aspire, the moment's already gone. It's about now.
It's always there.
The only
Always
time that you can access this is now.
Always there.
Yeah.
So I also just happened to notice that I'm the only woman in the room at this moment, at this tonight. And I feel it's a time of great responsibility of men. I really do. I don't exactly know where to speak to this, except that men of great spiritual strength really need to appear in this world right now for the sake of honesty and integrity and character. It's so important, so utterly urgent. So I'm very happy to see men on the cushion, because we do have to fortify ourselves and hold this world together that we are in. And coming in, I had the radio on and I was listening to the commentator talking about the two different kinds of men that we saw on the stage last night. That one was commanding and, declarative, and the other was protective. And truly, as well as women, we have particular callings of virtue. Maybe I could say it that way. But certainly men carry the sense of protection and the sense of strength and the strength of the sense of integrity And it's so urgent that we have good men coming forth in this world right now. And that we speak to, that men speak to sensibility and honesty and, truth as we can, if we can get there, and to take us past our levels of corruption. And the strength of women also to stand together and to recognize the best in men. I mean, I think equally women have to do the same. There's no doubt, but I really feel men are called upon right now. There are times when women have been called upon, but in our taking away the rights of women right now, I would like to hear men declaring that women have their rights also, and that we recognize one another equally. So anyway, this chant is a great assistance to us. It's given to us to be able to express awakening. It is awakening itself. Kanzeon within us is awakening, the total expression of awakening. It is on our website. You can download it on our website. It's under education. It's under, is that the banner, education? And then you will see liturgy. And it's in the middle aisle.
It's in a few places. I added it to several
Okay.
other places.
Okay.
Links.
Okay, but anyway, it's there, and you can download this and you can recite it. You can recite it for yourself at home and feel the strength of it. So, any other questions online?
Yes.
Yes, Mickey.
I just wanted to say, I thank you very much for that wonderful teaching. I've always just loved that sutra in our sutra books. And I don't know when was the last time we chanted it. I mean, it seems like it's been years.
No, we chant it regularly. Yeah.
Well, we used to chant it more frequently than we do now. Because
I don't think so. I think we chant it pretty regularly. Yeah, I'm just asking that it be every day.
I'm tuning in every morning and
Yeah, but I'm asking that it be done every day now. And so you're going to hear it.
so, yes. But what I also wanted to say, last week when I gave my talk on saving all sentient beings,
Yes.
the question that came up was, so what can we do? And I didn't answer that at that time. But since then, I've been thinking about it, and I've come up with a whole list.
Okay.
And number one on the list is to sit in meditation daily, remembering the name of Kuan Yin,
Okay.
Teshvara. And if we dedicate the merit of that sutra to all sentient beings,
Yes.
then that's number one on my list.
Okay. Thank you.
There's
Could everybody hear that? Amazing that I have to go close to it. I have really good hearing, but it echoes around. Good. So, yeah, thank you for that, Mickey. I mean, that is a good instruction for us to take forward to every day. And one doesn't have to sit for 40 minutes. One could sit for 3 minutes. If we say to ourselves, okay, every day I'm going to sit for 40 minutes, after about 3 days, we're not able to, and we feel very disappointed in ourselves. So 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, that's good. The important thing is that to follow the intuition to sit. When you have the idea, gee, I think I'd like to sit for a minute, that's when you sit immediately. You just obey your heart mind. And also then dedicate that to Kuan Yin, to Kanzeon Bosatsu, as Mickey said. So, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Okay, everyone, thank you very much.